This is Epic Book Recaps, a podcast that offers complimentary audio summaries of influential nonfiction books, making learning a smarter experience. Shoe Dog by Phil Knight. No concept is too far-fetched if you are armed with an unwavering resolve for success. We all have our aspirations, the targets we yearn to bring to life, and while some of these ambitions are attainable, others may appear outlandishly ambitious. But as we are about to delve into, Phil Knight exemplifies that any dream, no matter how extraordinary, can be achieved if you maintain a relentless drive and determination. In the year 1962, Phil Knight, like any other entrepreneur, held a visionary idea, a grand scheme, and was left with a single choice: to bring it to life, irrespective of the hurdles. Before he could even start, he was encountered with numerous obstacles. His vision seemed wild and impossible, considering he lacked the financial resources to fund a trip, let alone establish a multi-billion-dollar corporation. The more monumental the dream, the more significant the hurdles you are likely to encounter during your journey. As we delve deeper into the following sections, we will learn about Phil Knight's extraordinary persistence in his pursuit of his dream. During his era, the athletic shoe business was dominated by two rival German companies, Adidas and Puma, two antagonistic brothers engaged in a constant battle to outperform each other. Their extensive reach and financial power not only failed to deter him, but also inspired him to carve a niche for himself. Fresh out of Stanford, Phil Knight had one more lap to complete before he could chase his dreams. He planned to visit cities rich in history and spiritual significance, including Hawaii, Tokyo, Hong Kong, Rangoon, Calcutta, Bombay, Saigon, Kathmandu, Cairo, Istanbul, Athens, Jordan, Jerusalem, Nairobi, Rome, Paris, Vienna, West Berlin, East Berlin, Munich, and London. However, one city stood out: Japan. Immersing oneself in diverse cultures can provide valuable insights and perspectives. Japan was home to Onitsuka Company, the company that Phil Knight theorized would be ideal for breaking Adidas's monopoly in the market. The Japanese company produced running shoes known as Tigers, which were comparable to Adidas in quality but cheaper. Knight wrote a paper suggesting that the successful displacement of German camera companies by Japanese companies could be replicated in the running shoe industry. He was prepared to catalyze this paradigm shift. Those who were too fearful never started, and the weak gave up along the way. That leaves us, the determined ones. Us, Phil Knight. Distractions are commonplace, but it's crucial to navigate past them to realize your dreams. To fund his trip, Phil Knight sold his car, and when that wasn't enough, his father stepped in to cover the remaining amount. He chose his Stanford classmate Carter to accompany him on his journey due to their shared aspirations. They embarked on their journey to their first destination, Hawaii, where Phil Knight, for a moment, lost sight of his dream. Whether it was the beauty and comfort of Hawaii, or doubt creeping into his mind about the feasibility of his ambitious goal, Knight decided to extend his stay in Hawaii. He even accepted a job that he despised, all to avoid facing the impending challenge of heading to Japan. However, Phil Knight soon regained his focus, leaving Carter behind as he boarded a flight to Japan. There, he met with two ex-GIs who had established an import shop in Japan following the war. They provided him with the necessary information and guidance to navigate the complex landscape of the Japanese business world. As an American in Japan, Phil found himself in unfamiliar territory. The fact that Japan had lost a war to the US made the situation even more delicate. How could he persuade the Japanese to do business with an individual from a country they viewed as an enemy? Yet another audacious idea that made him envision his father's raised eyebrow all the way in Oregon. It's crucial to remember the path you've embarked on and to realign yourself when you veer off course. Despite the strained history between the two nations and the visible reminders of his home country's crimes, Phil Knight embarked on a 7-hour train ride to Kobe, the location of Onitsuka Company. Despite mistaking the venue for his presentation, he managed to correct his mistake. Much to his relief, the company's executives were forward-thinking and open to conducting business for the sake of progress. The head of export, Mr. Miyazaki, initiated the questioning, inquiring about Phil Knight's affiliation or representation. Sports, like books, provide people with a sense of having lived other lives, of sharing in other people's victories and defeats. At its best, the spirit of the fan merges with the heart of the athlete. Phil Knight. Stumbling blocks can be transformed into stepping stones toward success. In the previous chapter, we saw how Phil Knight embarked on a daring, life-altering trip to a country still recovering from the impacts of war to secure his shot at glory. The journey was marked with diversions and setbacks, but he persisted and reaped the rewards. In both business and life, you'll be confronted with numerous reasons to give up, to opt for the path of least resistance. However, as we'll learn in this chapter, such an approach is seldom the best option. Regardless of the challenges we encounter, it's crucial not to opt for the easy way out. Upon his return to Oregon in 1963 after his world tour, Phil Knight was warmly welcomed by his family, who had missed him during his year-long absence. He was eager to share his experiences and victories with them, and they were always ready to offer their support in any way they could. The only thing left was for his shipment of shoes to arrive. However, the shipment was taking longer than expected, which started to discourage Knight. He began to question whether his trip to Japan had been a waste of time and whether he had made a mistake in pursuing his dream. This led to a search for meaning, for a purpose. He started to doubt the validity of his dream and began considering settling for a job more suitable for his qualifications. Eventually, Phil Knight succumbed and applied for a position at the accounting firm Lybrand, Ross Bros in Montgomery. While the job offered decent pay, $500 a month, allowing him to purchase a new car, something was missing. He didn't find fulfillment in this job, just as anyone who substitutes their dream for an easier path will likely feel unfulfilled. The easier path might provide temporary relief, but your dream will continue to haunt you. However, it's important to remember that taking a convenient break can also provide an opportunity to regroup and refocus on achieving your dream. A business's management style is a critical factor in its success. We've seen how Phil Knight overcame numerous challenges to achieve success. This chapter will explore the various threats he faced regarding the continuity of his business and how he managed to overcome them. When recounting success stories, it's important to highlight the struggles and obstacles that were encountered along the way. This prepares anyone aspiring to achieve their dreams for the hard work and dedication required. Simply dreaming isn't enough. You must strive to keep your dream alive. Phil Knight hired his first employee, Jeff Johnson, a fellow Stanford runner. Johnson took the business in a bold and more productive direction. He increased sales, expanded the company's reach to the farthest corners of the West, and even beyond, to the East. Johnson was a bundle of energy, but one thing he lacked: feedback from his boss. Johnson liked to provide monthly, weekly, and even daily reports and letters to Phil Knight. Knight's management style was lax, and he didn't spare the time for feedback. However, this approach had a positive outcome. Johnson's frustration motivated him to achieve even more in the hope that Knight would finally take notice. Surviving one hurdle doesn't mean you won't encounter more. You must be prepared for anything. Business conditions were favorable otherwise. Sales were robust, and the company's relationship with Onitsuka was thriving. However, Phil Knight received a letter from a coach in Manhasset demanding that he cease selling Tigers, as he was the exclusive distributor according to his contract. This news greatly upset Phil Knight. He felt betrayed by his Japanese partners and decided to return to the source of it all to seek answers and resolution, as his letters to Onitsuka had gone unanswered. Phil Knight knew that he needed to take control of the situation, and the best way to do so was to go to the root of the problem. Fun fact: the famous Nike logo was designed before the company's name was finalized. Phil Knight wanted to name the company Dimension 6, while others preferred Bengal. Employee Jeff Johnson suggested Nike, the Greek goddess of victory. While Phil Knight didn't like it initially, manufacturing deadlines forced him to make a decision quickly. Maintaining your resolve in the face of significant opposition can yield fresh rewards. Once again, Phil Knight encountered another seemingly insurmountable setback, which led him to consider abandoning the shoe business. It's important to remember that giving up because of a single obstacle equals prematurely abandoning your dreams, and it's your responsibility to fulfill them. Phil Knight was back in Japan just 2 months into running his business to save it from extinction. He found that the head of export, Mr. Miyazaki, had been replaced, and his successor, Mr. Morimoto, had overseen the new business deal that was now threatening Blue Ribbon Sports Company. The hallmark of successful ventures is their ability to maintain focus and dedication under challenging circumstances. Phil Knight now had a new task at hand: to win over the new head of export and present his case effectively, hopefully with the same efficacy as his first visit. However, this time, he had the opportunity to meet the founder of the company, Mr. Onitsuka, who shared a similar passion for dreams and perseverance as the young Phil Knight. This made it easier to deliver his pitch, to the extent that without uttering a single word, Mr. Onitsuka was convinced and granted the trading rights for all Western states to Knight's Blue Ribbon, subject to a 1-year review. Trials test our resilience to determine if we are capable of handling the magnitude of the success that awaits us. Phil Knight accomplished another remarkable feat because he refused to succumb in the face of adversity. This advice applies to many, and if success is your goal, you must never back down from a challenge. Your dream is worth the effort. You just need to realize this truth for yourself. Knight decided early on that he had only one option. That was to fulfill his dream of creating a legacy for himself and inspiring others who dream but are afraid to take the plunge. Knight's life serves as an excellent example for young people everywhere. Even if you remove the entrepreneurship and business acumen, you'd still have a man with unyielding determination. An opportunity can often disguise itself as a teachable moment. In 1977, when scientists Frank Rudy and Bob Bogert pitched the idea of filling shoe soles with air to Phil Knight, he thought they were joking. "Why put air in shoes?" he asked. They responded as they had to similar questions from others, including Adidas, for superior cushioning, for enhanced support, for the ride of your life. Although Phil Knight's motivation was primarily to compete with Adidas, it's important to note that he embraced the idea and utilized it to his advantage. He put on a pair of the sample shoes they had brought and went for a run. The concept of air-filled soles was no longer just an idea. It would eventually become Nike's primary revenue source. It's perfectly fine for healthy competition to fuel our desire to succeed. It keeps us alert and hungry. Phil Knight had an exceptional ability to spot opportunities, which set him apart from his competitors. Phil saw the potential to expand his business internationally. Knight established factories in Korea, Puerto Rico, Exeter, New England, and China, where he became the first American to do business in 25 years when he set up a factory there in 1980. He knew exactly which sports stars would best promote his brand and elicit the best responses. He took a gamble on a newcomer, LeBron James, and it paid off significantly. Other sports superstars who have worn the Nike swoosh over the years include Romanian tennis player Ilie Nastase in 1972, record-breaking American runner Steve Prefontaine in 1973, and famous names like Kobe Bryant, Michael Jordan, and Tiger Woods. Don't be afraid to take seemingly audacious risks in your business. Trust your instincts, they're usually right. Nike continues to pioneer innovations in the sportswear industry to this day. There was a time when they only sold shoes, while the market was saturated with sports apparel produced by their competitors. Phil Knight was no longer content with being just a shoe company. He wanted the world to take him seriously. So, he decided to venture into the Nike clothing line, which was met with considerable success in 1978. Starting from a quiet town in Oregon, Phil Knight nurtured a dream like any other aspiring entrepreneur. He had a plan to challenge the established firms that had made their mark in the sports shoe and equipment industry. His primary inspiration, and later his biggest competitor, was Adidas. The market was so saturated with Adidas products that even Olympic athletes wore their shoes. Phil Knight wanted to wield the same influence. He wanted to create a brand that would penetrate the market deeply and inspire its users with its unique culture and a sense of pride. The mere fact that Phil Knight had a dream wasn't sufficient to realize it. For him, nothing appeared achievable at the start of his journey, with some even labeling his vision as crazy. But he believed in himself and his dream. He had the support of his family and his co-workers, who also became like family to him. The lesson here is to remain committed to our dreams and stay focused and dedicated, even when faced with significant opposition or enticing distractions. Phil Knight lived by this principle and reaped the success it brought. His story is an exemplification of the victory of the dreamer, a narrative about the difficulties one will encounter and the rewards of sticking with your dreams regardless of the circumstances. It reminds us that we too can achieve whatever we set our minds to with our various goals and objectives. Practical advice. Even when faced with challenges and trials, you must remain focused and determined. Write down your goals and place them where you can easily see them. This will serve as a reminder of your commitments whenever you feel like giving up.